Hey, welcome to the Games of James. Today we're going to talk about space minimalist OSR role-playing games. These are games that are minimalist in their rules, so they're very rules light. They have that old school flavor to them seems to be all the rage today. We're going to go over 4 of my favorite games of this genre. We're going to go over Death in Space. We're going to go to Mothership. Then we're going to go to Those Dark Places. And then finally, we're going to go through Vast Grimm. So with that, we're going to start with Death in Space. Death in Space is brought to you by the folks who brought us Morkborg. Yes, probably one of the most famous OSR games out there right now. This is a game that is not so much in the art punk style that Morkborg is. It's very minimalistic. Yes, it's true. It also shares the concept that the universe is doomed, but it is not Morkborg in space. Some people will expect that. I know I expect that. So this is a Kickstarter. I backed the Kickstarter. I'm waiting for my physical copy to come in, but I have my PDF copy here right now. You know, it's one of those things where I look at it and it is, yes, it is a minimalist role-playing game, but it is not Morkborg in space. I was kind of disappointed. When I first read through this book, I was really disappointed. I was expecting Morkborg in space, and I didn't get it. What I got, though, was a game that was so much more nuanced than that. It is a game that is... The horror of the universe is so much more subtle. And we'll get into that in a second. But like a lot of other games in this genre, it starts off with tables. You have a ton of different tables. And then you're looking at the tables of equipment, for example, and you're wondering, what do I need a fake grenade for? Why would my character carry pheromone spray or incense? Why is that? Why is there spray paint? Who knows? It's very intriguing. It kind of draws you right in right off the bat. This game, much like unlike other games in this genre, this has a definite setting. You are going to be adventuring in the Tenebraris system. I probably mispronounced that. If I did, I am deeply sorry. But again, this is a game that is very rules light, and the flavor of the universe is given to you in drips and drabs. They don't come out and really say anything other than a few things that kind of sets the tone of the universe. So one of them is that you are at the end of time. The universe is dying. So all around you'll see, planets being consumed by stars that are going into nova. Things are, just succumbing to entropy all over. The universe has hit its end. If you ever watch one of those documentaries about space billions of years from now, it is like that. And because of that, the universe almost takes on that it's a malevolent force onto itself. It is doomed. I'm doomed, and I'm taking everybody with me. It is almost like this indifferent evil. Everything is just falling apart. The second part of this is that this is taking place in the aftermath of this huge and horrifying war. In this universe, corporations and planets, decided to fight each other over this one planet that had these crystals that became the basis of all of their energy needs. These crystals, were extremely important for a lot of different facets of their society. They fought it. They ground each other to a standstill. There was no big clear winner. But culture has been destroyed. There is no advancement in culture. There is no new invention. There's no new manufacturing. And that plays a huge role in this game. The one thing I actually really like about this game is that the people who designed this game have a background in physics. I don't know if it's astrophysics, but if you take a look at the artwork in this game, it is simply fantastic, and it will show you, like, it conveys, like, that whole, almost you're reading one of those old science textbooks you might find from, like, you know, the 60s or 70s. These charts and planetary movement charts that kind of fill you with awe and wonder. But then you also get these great minimalistic artwork that shows, you know, the decay of the universe and the indifference of space. I really dig it. They've done a fantastic job with this game where it conveys the themes and feeling of the campaign. This game definitely takes place in a defined setting. And again, this is unlike the other games of this genre where you can, like, you know, they just give you a rule set. It is up to you to define where it goes. This one, it is a definitive system. And again, I believe it's pronounced Tenebrae. Correct me if I'm wrong. I will not be offended. But again, the Tenebrae system, the thing around this is that the universe is decay, and because of this decay, you start to hear things in the static. You know, they tell you that static is all around you. So think of it as, you know, you're walking into a house that has a TV that's tuned to a dead channel, and you hear the static. You have a radio that doesn't quite work well, and you're between channels, and you hear the vague voices coming in from a distant signal, something like that. And that is where the horror of this universe comes in. You also get a lot of weird cults that are cropping up, and then you have people that are being touched by the void. I know it sounds like the antithesis to touched by an angel, but it is, you know, when your characters fail an ability roll or something like that, they get void points that they can use to activate things called void mutations, which give them an ability. But also you can, you know, use them the wrong way or use them too much and suffer horrible repercussions. You know, but the game and the game mechanic conveys that extremely, extremely well. The one thing I get from this book when I'm reading through it is that, you know, I don't know, I'm not 100% why, but I feel like this is almost like Hellraiser in space. Not so much like the pleasure and pain aspect of it, but like you're going to turn around and find some demon that is like a manifestation just of the malevolence of the universe of itself, you know, appearing before you. Character creation is very straightforward and very easy. You roll 2d4 and you subtract one from the other, and that gives you your modifier for all of your basic stats. You have your body, dexterity, savvy, and technical ability. These are your primary abilities, and again, you can roll a character up in like 10 seconds. There is no character classes per se, but you do have origins, and the origins kind of are almost like, you know, a proxy for a character class. Your origins, you would choose one of the benefits that it gives you. Some of them do have a, you know, really defined game effect. Others are more abstract that the game master and the players will have to come to a degree, decision on what happens and then to what degree. The nice thing about this is that the origins are extraordinarily creative. I find them extraordinarily creative simply because you don't see this in sci-fi. You kind of see it, but it's not really explored. So, for example, they have, you know, scientists that have dedicated their lives to to studying long, drawn-out phenomenon, and how they do that is constantly going into cryosleep. So yes, cryosleep does come up in a lot of science fiction, but this is people who purposely will go into cryosleep for decades at a time. And how does that affect a character? How does that, you know, shadow their background? What is it like to sleep for like 40 years, wake up and find that all of your friends are either old, or dead when the world has changed, and then you go back to bed for like another 60 years and wake up and find that the world has changed even more. Or you wake up and you find that the world hasn't changed. Now in this world, you're scavenging for parts, no new manufacturing, no new advancements going on, where, decades prior, things were moving at a steady pace, and then boom, this war has ground everything to a halt. You also have some people that are like, an AI that was downloaded into a human body. You have people that are called velocity cursed, that are starting to lose their connection to reality as they phase in and out of the universe due to the entropy and the static. And again, take a look at this great artwork, very minimalist. It very much conveys the idea that, there is something malevolent going on in the universe. It is not an active malevolence per se, but it is just a malevolence because the universe is decaying. And yes, they hint that there is stuff out there. There's stuff just out of our sight, mind, and range, and it's coming closer. But I think, they do an extraordinarily good job of conveying the malevolence of the universe in and of itself through this artwork. I would highly recommend this game, but just remember that this is a game that is set in a definitive, a definitive universe. It is a well-defined universe. So if you were looking to run a minimalist Xenomorph campaign and you wanted your players to work for Wayland Yutani or something like that, this is not the rule system that I would use. I would use something, a completely other rule system. This is something that is very much locked into the universe in and of itself. Whether that is a good or bad thing is up to you. Personally, I think this is a game that I would crack out every now and then. I wouldn't plan to run extended campaigns with this. I would run a series of one-shots. With that in mind, this is also not a game that I would use to introduce new players to role-playing games. Role-playing games have come into fashion recently. A lot of my friends who weren't interested in role-playing games suddenly are. I would not hit them with this right off the bat. This has kind of got like a meta story that's kind of hard to wrap your head around. You can also take it by a case-by-case basis, but I would not recommend this game to play it with beginners. But again, I want to show you this great minimalist artwork. This artwork, I think does convey that dread, that the universe is falling apart. There's weird cults going on. But with that, one other thing about this game that I think is extraordinarily creative is that your characters will be building what they refer to as a hub. Now, a hub in this game can be like a satellite that you all live aboard. It can be a space freighter. It could be any number of things. Like an asteroid that you've, hollowed out and made into your base. It could be any number of things, but it's almost like the hub becomes a character onto itself. So if you are running this game, you would really have to have your players, design this with intention. Because, like I said earlier, in this game world, you are constantly scavenging for parts. Nothing is new, meaning that you're constantly repairing and rigging and refurbishing and recycling in this endless pattern of, this piece is wearing out. Okay, you fix it now, this piece is wearing out, because again, it goes into the theme of the universal decay. Your characters will be going on different missions, they call them contracts. And you want to have great contracts that will give you access to better parts, that will give you money so you can buy better parts. It could also give you access to better contracts. Because in this game, your reputation is huge. It is what determines what your characters will be offered. Almost like, if you're playing Shadowrun, your Shadowrunning team, if they have a bad reputation, Mr. Johnson's will not hire them. In this game, it's kind of the same way. Your reputation is going to matter. Again, like a lot of other OSR games, your characters are extremely fragile and they will die often. Don't get too attached. If your character lives for a few game sessions, definitely consider yourself lucky. But don't be horribly angry or upset if your character dies. Death in space is it's in the title of the game. That's what's going to happen. Unlike Morkborg, there is no set, apocalypse. There's no, signs that the universe is ending other than it actually is, and things are just breaking down. Just in summary of this game, if you are expecting Morkborg in space, you are not going to get it. So don't go into this game thinking that. So we're going to move on to our next game. Our next game is going to be Mothership. Let me get that into frame better for everyone. Mothership is the granddaddy of all the OSR rules light horror games. It's certainly the most popular. If you go on Kickstarter, I guarantee you're going to find at least one Kickstarter campaign for Mothership. Mothership, this edition that we are looking at is the quote-unquote Zero Edition. They just recently did a Kickstarter campaign for a first edition. And the way that the creators of the game, which is Tuesday Night Games, explained it is that they kind of released this as a beta and it just took off through, it's kind of almost like a release game test. It took off, people started playing it, and then they started getting feedback. There was some stuff that they themselves were like, this rule should be changed. So they are coming out with a first edition. I have backed the first edition and I'm waiting for it to come in. I have the work in progress PDF for first edition, but since it is a work in progress, I am not going to show it here. It just wouldn't be fair to the creators. Just spoiler alert, I like what I'm seeing so far. When that comes out, I will do a first edition versus Zero Edition, and then I will also redo this once I get physical copies of all of these games. I do have them coming down the pipeline. Once that happens, I will do a physical copy evaluation for everybody. But Mothership, this is another rules light minimalist role-playing game. And again, it starts off with the table. Games in this genre always do. In this one, you'll roll for your stats. You have character classes in this game. Your character classes are your typical deep space sci-fi tropes. You have your space dock workers, like Teamsters. You have your scientists, your androids, and your space marines. Nothing groundbreaking here, but the thing with this is that Mothership does not have its own universe. They're just presenting you with a rule system here. And I think that's what players have latched on to. And I think that's why this is very popular. It's because you are free to make any game you want. So if you wanted to make a Xenomorph role-playing game using Mothership, you certainly can. I almost guarantee you someone has made it. There is a lot of third-party support because of this. Like I said, if you go on Kickstarter, I guarantee you're probably going to find at least 2 Mothership Kickstarter. If you go through Drive-Thru RPG and look up Mothership, your search engine will explode from all the stuff that's available for it. Yes, it varies in quality. At some point, I'm going to do my greatest hits of Mothership. But Mothership in and of itself is a great system for that reason. It is a very easy system, easy rule system to learn. And it's also an easy one to adapt. You can create a lot of different creatures for your characters to encounter. If you wanted to do the psychological horror, they have the pressure and stress system in this game. But if you wanted to do the Lovecraftian horror, you can do it. If you wanted to do the Xenomorph horror, you can do it. If you wanted to do Event Horizon, you can do it. This system is very flexible. The one thing I truly enjoy about this is also the artwork in this game, because it is that weird minimalistic, almost scribble, these are liner notes. And I like that because it conveys that 70s sci-fi feel. It conveys that the Betamax future, Aliens is that VHS Betamax future where, yes, it is far off in the future, but the screens still flicker, things still randomly vent off steam or whatnot, very low definition graphics. Everything is still done through radio. This conveys that, I think, very well. One thing I really, really do like about this, and you can think I'm a freak for liking this so much, is the patches chart. You roll, 2d10 and you get a patch for your character. They tell you this table, will give you a patch. Whether it means anything to your character or not is entirely up to you. I love these patches because when I'm reading through them, I am imagining them in my head. I've seen a lot of these as stickers, in New York City when I'm wandering around New York City. I do see these types of things as stickers and as patches. And I would imagine what my character would be like if I had, why does my character have this patch, So it's just something that I think they did really well. I really enjoy it. Maybe I enjoy it more than I should, but, I love it. They also tell you, how to hire mercenaries as NPCs. This is yet another game where your character is going to die. Don't get too attached to them. Don't feel bad if a die roll doesn't go your way and your character ends up dead. It's old school. It's gonna happen. But, they have a stress mechanic in this game. And stress and panic. So they do go over, space travel. They touch upon that in Death in Space as well. They talk about it here as well. But they don't really convey the same sense of emptiness and dread in space travel that Death in Space does. But again, that's because this is a very system agnostic or a universe agnostic game system, So they do have ship design, but the ship is not like a character onto itself, or at least I don't get that impression like it is in Death in Space. Some people will probably correct me on that, but, I just don't get that same feeling. That it is as critical. So yeah, Mothership, again, most popular game in this genre. A lot of people will be playing it, and it is, I thoroughly enjoy it. The few games that I've played, I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I have run the Pseudo Aliens game. I know there is a Alien RPG. I enjoy that very much. But if you wanted to do a very rules light, if you had people who were interested in it but didn't want to commit to it, I would make Xenomorphs in this. Like I said, I almost guarantee if you Google it, someone has already done it for you. Next game we're going to go to, I don't have a PDF for, and that is one of the things that annoys me. We're going to go to Those Dark Places. Yes, this does sound like a BBC, BBC show, something that came on right after Dark Shadows, it's a game whose title doesn't match the aesthetics. I will tell you that right now. Now, the one thing that really did annoy me was that I had to buy the book and the PDF separately. I didn't buy the PDF. I just bought the book. But, if you take a look at the game, it is very minimalistic. The artwork is very basic, but the artwork does not convey, horror or dread. This game will bill itself as industrial science role-playing. So think about that game, that job you had right after college or during college. I can't get that to focus. But think about that job and imagine, there we go. Imagine doing that in space. And that is the game system. Now, when you open up this book, they try to explain the game system to you like you are an employee going through orientation, which I actually like. Now, they're trying to say that this game is supposed to be people that are living and working in a world like Aliens, where it's these rundown space stations, these rundown, refineries and stuff like that. I don't really get that from this game. When I'm reading it, what I'm getting is stories like Red Star Winter Orbit, the Hinterlands, or that movie Moon. Like, that's what I'm getting. I am getting that the horror of this comes from what the people who put you in space has done to you and the indifference of it. Very rules light. You don't even roll for stats. You have your case file and you are given a number array and you assign those stats. You're also not playing for riches. You're not playing for any type of, benefit. What you are actually playing for is retirement. That's where I tell you, imagine that shitty job you had right after college and now you're doing it in space. You're counting down the days to retirement. Just waiting for that to focus in. Okay, it's not cooperating with me, but, it is a very good game. Do not get me wrong. But it is not horror in the sense of, disturbing alien horror. Yes, they do touch upon that in this game, but it's not the forefront. Again, this is the horror of what happens when your employers cut corners. What happens when there is a cruel indifference to those you leave in space. Think about what would happen if, a penal colony were set into orbit, and what would happen to people if they were left in 0G for decades, right? Again, it is not horror like an alien's going to come out and kill you. That is certainly possible with the rule set, There is no defined universe in this game. They do give a description of what's happening on Earth, and it's not, anything genre defining. They'll tell you that the environment has been destroyed, it's overpopulated, etc., etc. But other than that, it is a universe that is yours to create. I think I was initially put off because I didn't get the PDF when I bought the hardcover book. I am kind of old school in the sense that I like to hold a book in my hand. Mothership, I've gotten a book and the PDF. The other ones, I have the PDFs. I'm waiting for the books to arrive from the Kickstarter fulfillment. This one, I had to buy it. It was $25 for the book. And then I went to go get the PDF, and it was like another $18. It was just like, do I really want to spend another $18 on it? This is also a game system that I would use if I'm introducing new players to role-playing. It is a very easy, you have a target number, you need to meet or beat the target number. Generally, the target number is 7, but you can adjust it higher or lower as needed. There are character classes in this game. The character classes are your crew member position, like you are an engineer, you are the security guard. And those are kind of freeform as to what benefits that you would get with that. And the benefits are essentially skill benefits, and your skills are tied to your stats. So like a security guard doing a hand-to-hand combat would be advantageous over than, let's just say, the engineer. So it's actually pretty simple. And again, I would use this as a role-playing game to introduce new players. So, but another thing that kind of irks me, though, is that the name does not convey the same sentiment I get from reading the book. Those dark places would give you more of a supernatural sci-fi feeling. Again, I don't get that from this game. I get it from, again, the horror is more of company indifference. They give you a sample adventure in this. I don't want to spoil it for you because it actually is like really messed up. Like when I read it, I was just like, wow. So like, that should be the framework of adventures that you would run to that. But like I said, if you read stories like The Hinterlands or Red Star Went to Orbit, that is more of what this game is about. So we're going to move on to the last one. This is my last favorite game in this genre. And it is quite a doozy. So you know how I said that Death in Space is not Mork Borg in space? We're going to move on to a game that actually is Mork Borg in space. This is not a game that is done by the team who gave us Mork Borg. This is a third-party game that is quote-unquote compatible with Mork Borg. And we are going to talk about the end of the universe that is, as soon as I bring it up, that is Vast Grimm. Yes, my friends, the universe is going to come to an end in garish pink and neon white. So Vast Grimm, it is a game that is marketed as being compatible with Mork Borg. But this is the closest, as of right now, that you're going to get to Mork Borg in space. Again, like all other games in this genre, we get started off with a table. And this one, you're getting a bunch of tables. Much like Mork Borg, this is done with the idea that the universe is dying. It is falling apart. There is a prophecy. You have markers of that prophecy that your players will progress through. When you go through it, the universe is over. Your characters are all dead. Very much like Mork Borg. So we're going through, and you will find that this game is done in the same art punk style that Mork Borg is done in. Character generation is extraordinarily similar. They kind of like rehashed or at least that's the feeling that I get. They kind of rehashed Mork Borg into a deep space sci-fi thing. The one thing that sets this apart from all the other games is that the real reason the universe is in peril is because you have these creatures called the Grimm that are these parasitic worms that are taking people over. They're eating them and devouring them, and they're devouring their souls. People trying to fight them off has caused, societies to collapse all over. You're not really pushing new grounds with this game, especially if you are familiar with Morkborg, but it is actually a pretty killer game. I do love the artwork. I do love the art punk style of this game. You have the whole thing with the universe ending and their prophecies. There is that supernatural element to it. This one, you are selecting a class. You're either going to roll for it randomly or you'll select it. You could also probably go through a process of creating a character like in Morkborg without getting a character class. But they do give you character classes that give you certain abilities. You do have things called technomancy. And you get what are called tributes, and these tributes are encoded, and they're not unlike scrolls in Morkborg. You also can get supernatural favors from various powers that allow you to reroll different rolls. This is also a game system that is set in a universe. You cannot separate the game system from the universe. So if you wanted to run a xenomorph adventure, this is not the rule system that I would recommend for that. I would certainly run, this game as a one-shot or two. The overarching goal of this universe is to survive and then escape the universe. There is rumors that there's this portal that your characters can either build or find that will take you out of this universe and move you to a new universe. And it is something that can drive various stories or various campaigns. I do like it. I wait to see where this game will be taken in the future. It is still being produced through the crowdfunding campaign. It wasn't a Kickstarter. I think it was GameFound. I also ordered a bunch of dice that comes with it. I don't know if you can jump in and order it yourself right now, but it's certainly a game that for the Morkborg crowd, you would definitely dig. You might dig it more than Death in Space. But one thing that you can get in this game is you could pull out the addiction rules and the drug rules, or the parasitic, becoming the thing, the Grimm, and pull that out for your own game. But again, at least to me, this is a game that you cannot separate the game from the game system, from the universe in and of itself. So there you have it. You have my picks for the best OSR games. Please share this if you know someone that is looking to get into any of these games, or if you have any questions about them, hit me up. Until next time, folks.